I'd like to say shalom and call hello Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rukol Kadosh. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect, and peace and blessings to those who listen. And like a lot of you've already seen in the news, man, yo, the Dancing Diddler is done. Diddy's out of here, man. And you know what that is? That's the spirit of Bacchus. The spirit of Bacchus is being subdued. Because Sean P. Diddy Combs was known for being a party animal, man. And not just partying like at the club. I mean, this guy engaged in lasciviousness, in which he had all sorts of wild, reveling parties. You know, a lot of the evidence has come out, a lot of the news has come out. 1,000 bottles of baby oil and 750 dildos, you know, and all sorts of wild shit, man, at these at his homes where he held these parties at. You know, and it just makes a lot of sense. You know, we've been hearing about Diddy and his escapades for a couple decades now, and it's finally lining up, finally taking fruition, finally coming to light here, the things that he's been doing. It's just amazing how, just a side note, TMZ is always on the cutting edge of the footage of people getting caught. First footage of them being arrested. Diddy, when he beat the shit out of Cassidy, they had the footage for that. I mean, it's just amazing how they're always in the know. TMZ or the Tammuz network, you know, they're paid informants as well, paid to follow these celebrities around and dig up dirt. That's a bigger blackmailing scheme right there, but that's a whole nother conversation, a whole nother video for a whole nother day, right? But getting back to the subject at hand, Sean P. Diddy Combs is a microcosm of the black elite. Entertainers, politicians, fraternity and sorority members are all soon going to be brought low, right? So you bitches in the AKA and the Deltas and so on and so forth, man. You silly niggas bouncing around and dancing around like dogs for Omega Sci-Fi. Yo, Prince Hall Masons, the Most High's about to bring all y'all down, man. All the boule, all the elite Negroes, the elite so-called blacks, right? Those who pitched their tents within the borders of Edom are finding out quickly that Edom's empire is crumbling. And guess what? You're gonna fall with it, okay? You're gonna fall with it. Let's get some more content here.
$8 million bond as part of his bail hearing. Eminently trustworthy. Well, we'll see about that. But there are a lot of questions still in this indictment. Are there bigger fish to fry here? There's a lot of holes, a lot of unanswered questions. Someone who's been digging into this very deeply for many, many months is Ian Carroll. Of course, you can follow him on X, on TikTok, and he's been doing an amazing job and amazing journalism digging into this, to all of this and how deeply this goes. So we invited Ian to come on the show and dive a little bit more deeply into all of this. Ian, great to see you today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Clayton. Great to be back, man.
So I just want to go through pieces of this indictment because Natalie did a great job yesterday deep diving, going through all the pieces of the indictment. But there's a lot. I mean, the indictment describes a pattern of abuse and coercion in all of this, but the full extent of this criminal organization and these alleged activities, we don't know. Who else might be involved in this is still not fully clear. So that's my side of it. What did you make of what's left out of this indictment?
I mean, the glaring hole is that the indictment goes after sort of the bottom of what we learned from the Lil Rod lawsuit. It goes after the guns and the drugs and a lot of the violence on Diddy's level. But notably missing is the name Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group. He was named originally in Lil Rod's lawsuit with alleged clear evidence of him knowing about the parties and funding the parties. But later on, through, you know, mechanisms of power, he got his name removed from that lawsuit, is my understanding. And now he does not show up in the indictment against Diddy.
Of course he doesn't. Lucian Grange, he is the epitome of the top executive of the music industry, right? Grew up in London, England. Went to Queen Elizabeth's Grammar School, which is one of the top five grammar or elementary schools in the nation of the UK, right? Worked for Universal. I believe he made $65 million last year. 15 million of it is salary. The rest was off of bonuses that he made from signing different artists and making different deals happen. Yeah, he funded a lot, and he's Sir Lucian's, by the way, Sir. He's a knight over there, anointed knight. He he funded a lot of these quote unquote freak offs that Diddy had going on, right? And helped fly these different women in. Also, he paid for the undercover cops that brought in the drugs. I mean, you had to have top people bringing in these drugs and bringing in these different women, underage girls, so on and so forth, man. All right. But hey, he's not being called out in this indictment at all. All right. Jake, you're going to find out you're by yourself in this world, man. All right. And though hand join in hand, the wicked should not go unpunished. We're going to go ahead and get that in a minute here.
And that's kind of to be expected because often they'll go after the smaller fish first. But that's the biggest hole in the story because that starts to cut the legs off of going upwards above it.
So in that way, then, do you think I said this yesterday on the show that I feel like he might be the scapegoat here and that the goal is to try to keep it, stop it with him. Nothing more to see here. Don't go any higher. Don't look at how dirty and deeply this goes. Is that your sense of it?
That's the worry. And I think that right now there's prevailing sentiments on the internet and the pessimistic sentiment is they're going to cover up all of the connections and not go after the bigger fish and use Diddy as a scapegoat. And that seems likely based on past history. But there is a large optimistic sentiment that they are going after him now and they have arrested him and he may be talking. They denied him bail, allegedly. And so there are people that believe that they're going to get him to talk and to start to add other indictments, add other charges, and start to arrest other people. Time will tell. I'm sure hoping that they go after more and that this is just the start. But it's really hard to say at this point if we have a new justice system or any actual justice in this case, or whether it's just another Epstein 2.0.
Yesterday on the show, we talked about Fahim Muhammad.
Keep in mind, he said another Epstein 2.0, right? Diddy is being prosecuted by the same prosecution team that prosecuted Epstein and being held in the same holding facilities that Epstein was in as well in New York. So this is there's a pattern here, right? And there's a reason for that. Don't be surprised if you hear about Diddy, quote unquote, committing suicide. He's already on suicide watch. Don't be surprised if, somehow, some way he winds up dead. And it was a quote unquote suicide before he gets to yelling and talking about the top ranking Hollywood elite that was at these parties with these underage girls, drugging these women, drugging these men, plowing them out, getting evidence on them, blackmail on them for contracts, so on and so forth, man. It's a dirty ass world.
Epstein 2.0.
Yesterday on the show, we talked about Fahim Muhammad and this very odd purchasing of property at the southern border, right along the southern border wall, right?
Fahim Muhammad was seen all over social media, and people were giving him praise for buying quote unquote land and transferring the deeds over to his son. And like, oh, that's how you do it. It's a real black man. Let's see what they say about Fareed Muhammad. He has a dark past as well.
Next to Tijuana in the town of Boulevard, which, as we talked about on the show yesterday, no one would buy property at that location unless you're a criminal or you want to be involved in some sort of cartel-related organization to traffic people across the southern border. That piece of it seems glaringly missing right now. What do you make of that?
First of all, anyone who hasn't seen your episode about that from the other day should go watch it. I had speculated a little bit about Fahim Muhammad and that property side of it when I first started investigating, but I didn't find that news clip that you guys found. And that really puts it into clear, obvious, like in your face perspective. Because Fahim Muhammad, if anyone doesn't know, Fahim Muhammad was Michael Jackson's head of security when this guy was like in his early 20s, straight out of college, which is already a huge red flag. And as soon as Michael Jackson died, he gets promoted to being the head of Diddy's security for this blackmail ring, which means he's overseeing all this criminal activity. So clearly his background is not the business and real estate degrees that he got in college. And him having this other side of his business, which is this property purchasing, he's like gifting acres and acres of property to his 14-year-old son, which just sounds like tax write-offs and money laundering to me. It's clearly, it's on the southern border with the southern border wall there. It's a big enough piece of property that it could easily be used for human trafficking. And I've spoken with other journalists on the ground in the San Diego area that are reaching the exact same conclusions and even going a little deeper. So I'm still tracing those threads. But to me, that speaks to connections to much bigger things in the industry and to a much bigger network, because not only is the real estate, the human trafficking, the minors, all of that's missing from the current indictments, but also any mention of the hidden cameras and the alleged video blackmail operation. That is also missing from the indictments. And those are the two aspects that tie this most directly to an Epstein-style organization. And we all don't live in the blackmail world. We don't live in the black market. So we don't really think of how that industry works. But just like if you worked in the sports industry or you worked in the movie business, you know the other people that work in your industry, you know the other big players. And so often I would assume these big players in the blackmail industry and in the human trafficking industry, they probably know each other, just like arms traffickers know each other, just like drug traffickers know each other. And so Fahim Muhammad is one of the obvious glaring examples of potential ties to the other aspects of the black market that is missing at this point.
It is glaring, right, that this big piece of it is missing, the child trafficking minors piece of this. And they did open it up during the press conference to, hey, we've got a tip line. Any victims out there, we want you to come forward. Do you get the sense that we haven't closed the book on that particular part of this?
Child trafficking is big business for the United States, right? Not just for the Hollywood pedo elites, but for the United States as a whole, right? That's why that cackling chameleon Kamala Harris is who was named the border czar, kept the borders wide open, right? Because she's just a puppet, right? She works for the elite, right? And they need human trafficking. They need victims. They need people in here, not just for sex and slavery, but for organs as well, right? It has to happen, right, to keep some of these rich bastards alive. Big business.
Story that might be the other shoe to drop here, the sex trafficking and the minors. I can only hope, because that to me, time and time again, we talk about on our show, I don't know what it is about the lack of attention on child trafficking in the United States, but it seems to get just brushed aside, and they're going after him for guns and other things.
Yeah. I mean, they're on the more like rational or skeptical side of things.
Keep in mind, Justin Bieber, pop singer, was 15 years old, spending 48 hours with Diddy, right? Diddy was 40 years old at the time, hanging out with a 15-year-old Justin Bieber, right? And got him a Lamborghini right after that. I wonder why.
It is important to note that when you're talking about child trafficking, you're talking about underage victims. It can be notoriously hard to actually get hard evidence that you can prosecute in a court of law, partially because a lot of child trafficking victims are not in control of their own lives, do not survive for very long, are continually in those trafficking networks and don't have the agency to actually know what's going on or to contact authorities and tell their story. They have no one to defend them, so their lives are at risk if they're even still alive to this day. So there's all these elements that go against us getting evidence to prosecute in that kind of an example. But there's also the aspect that the like you're saying, the lack of attention to child trafficking, which is, as you've had JJ Carroll and Ryan Mata on your show many times, and those guys are doing a great job of exposing that this is not a small industry. This is a massive, massive industry in our world today.
The bottom line is Sean P. Diddy Combs is fucked. Period. He's up shit creek without a paddle. No friends, no industry friends are going to come to his rescue because of the threat of RICO charges. No way. He's done. Yeah, man. So Diddy is done. He's up out of here. Seriously. It's over for him. Right? It's been a long time coming. Let's get some scriptures. Let's go to Galatians 5:16 through 21. The book of Galatians, chapter 5:16 through 21. This I say then, walk in the Spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusteth against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law, the penalty of the law. Now, the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. So the notorious puffy parties were filled with violence, rape, false imprisonment, right? Because he kept people there for days on end against their will. Homosexuality, and all sorts of wickedness that is unspeakable. Many of our people hold Diddy and men like him in high regard due to their worldly success. They idolize them, which makes them susceptible to their demons, right? So you idolize people, you don't know what type of demons they have on them, you're worshiping them, you're susceptible to their demons. So we got to guard our hearts and clothe our minds in righteousness, right? The ways of Diddy and the Boule elite are the ways of the heathen, all right? Are the ways of the heathen. Let's get that real quick. Let's go to Proverbs 3 and 31. Proverbs 3 and 31. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways, right? For the froward is abomination to Yahweh, but his secret is with the righteous. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. So the heathen nations have oppressed Jacob in every captivity and invasion of our land, right? They brought debauchery and wickedness into our culture, like during the times of the Maccabean revolt. We cannot envy the wicked. We cannot take on the ways of the Gentile heathen. We, as Jacob, we are a set-apart nation unto Yahweh. So we can't take on the beast-like ways, man. The orgies, the parties, the drugs, the rapes, the murders, the kidnappings. That's the ways of Edom. That's the ways of the heathen, man. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Right? We have to set apart ourselves, set apart our minds, not idolize these devils, man. Diddy's the devil because he took on the ways of the devil, right? He's a son of Jacob in the flesh, but in the spirit, he is a son of the devil. Okay? Let's get Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. Not going to be here long. Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass. And thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away. Right? So we cannot trust our enemies, right? The Boule Negroes have trusted Edom. They have decided to take on the ways of Edom, the partying, the whoredom, the violence, and the wickedness. It just spreads amongst our community and amongst those circles. All right. So those of the hopeful elect have to stay vigilant, man. Have to stay vigilant and let Sean Combs be an example to you. Okay. Proverbs 11 and 23. The book of Proverbs 11 and 23. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. Let's go up to verse 21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. The elite of Edom cannot and will not protect any of the Israelite sellouts. Okay? It won't happen. All wicked Jakes and Edomites will be blotted out and brought low. Diddy is sitting in that cell by himself. By himself. No help. Okay? All the parties he's had, where's Lucian Grange? Where's he at? Right? He was supposed to be named in that indictment. Okay? Most High has called out Jake, in this case Diddy, to suffer the consequences. Right? Because judgment starts at the house of Yahweh first and foremost. Right? Last scripture here. Ecclesiastes 7:1. Ecclesiastes 7:1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. Right? So the party spirit is over. Okay? Yahweh is killing the spirit of mirth in Babylon. P. Diddy, the Dancing Diddler, was the mascot of partying and decadence for decades. Right? He embodied the spirit of Bacchus in the flesh. Okay? And now his time's come to an end. Right? So we got to stay on point, stay diligent, stay prayed up, because we're going to watch a lot of the stars fall from heaven as prophesied. Right? I want to say shalom, peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.